Okay, today is, gosh, it's July 19th, and I feel like I kind of had this overwhelm when I realized summer was ending, but I'm hoping that you're having a lovely summer. And tonight we actually get to have an awesome guest with us. She's still joining, so we'll kind of wait till she comes on. While she's jumping in, we'll go ahead and just kind of see if there are any other questions or things that we can talk about. I know that BOGOs are happening right now. And so I want to see what questions you have with BOGOs. Do you feel like you have all the resources that you need? Have you found the resources in my program for those of you that are running BOGOs? I know that I have scripts in there for social media, for text messages, for emails. And so I just want to make sure everybody feels like they're supported with the craziness that always happens with BOGOs. Is that all been found? Okay, awesome. What else are you all working on this week that I can help with? Nothing? Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and let Kimberly in the room, and I'm really excited for you to meet her. And here she comes. Hi, Kimberly. Oh, you're on mute.
And of course I was muted.
Hi, welcome. We're so excited to have you here.
I'm glad to be here. I'm so jealous of your sunshine. It's dark here in Boston.
It's funny, it actually just finished raining, so
Really? Okay.
the sunshine after the rain. But I was just about to tell everybody a little bit about you, and I got to work with Kimberly, and I really appreciated the work that she did. I had a coaching call with her, and she helped me create some contracts. And so I'm excited to share her genius with all of you. But I first want to tell you a little bit about her so that you know her history and kind of what she's up to. So she's a lawyer, she's an entrepreneur, and she's the creator of Contracts with Kim. She is licensed to practice law in New York, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. And Kimberly, remind me where you live.
I'm sorry?
Where do you live?
So I'm just south of Boston.
In Boston, that's right.
On the East Coast, yeah.
Very cool. She also has over 12 years experience representing some of the largest organizations in the world, like Amazon, MGM, and others. And she's the senior director of legal affairs at Europe. And she's also the founding partner at her law firm, the Odums Law Firm Group. And specifically, one of the many things I love about Kimberly is that she has a passion for supporting entrepreneurs and with their businesses and brands. And so she specifically understands like the client assistant relationship and how to protect bloggers, affiliate marketers, podcasters, coaches, and more. So everything that you all are doing is right up Kimberly's alley. And so I thought it would be awesome to have her on a call with us and share some of her wisdom. So if you have questions as we're talking, type them in the chat and we'll see if we can get to them. But very first, Kimberly, I would love if you can maybe just tell us what are some of the common holes that business owners have in their business that you see often.
Great. Thank you for the introduction, Megan. I appreciate it. And thank you all for being here tonight. I know a bit about Megan's business just by working with her. So I understand you guys are getting amazing support through these calls. And I'm just honored that she offered to have me come in and chat with you all. And I hope we can get a lot out of this conversation. And of course, answer all the questions that you guys may have. So your first question, what are some of the legal holes that business owners have? To sum that up, I think a lot of business owners, especially if you're new and you're starting out, you're testing the waters, right? So you're like, I have this idea or this concept and I'm just going to go for it. And the going for it is enough of a hurdle that, you want to pour your focus into that. And what ends up happening is you kind of have blinders to everything else. And the everything else that I'm talking about specifically is the legal stuff. So there's a concept that, ignorance of the law is no excuse, meaning if you want to be in business and you want to, be here making money and engaging with clients, you have to have your legal ducks in a row. You have to operate in the same, the same guidelines, same rules as Amazon, as all these other companies. And it doesn't matter that you're just starting out. So what does that look like? It looks like you need to have an established legal foundation, right? So if I were to ask any of you, and not specifically you all, but anyone who's holding themselves out as a business person, like, what's your business entity? What's your structure? If that is foreign to you and you have no understanding of what I even mean, yet you're carrying yourself as a business owner, that's a problem, right? So you need to know what your structure is. Are you an LLC? Are you a sole proprietor? Are you truly those things? And a lot of people, they have no real concept of what that means. They have no real concept about how to get that established. I think a lot of business owners are just folks with hobbies that make them money, and they're not true business owners because you're not doing the things that you need to do to protect yourself, to protect your earnings, to protect not just your business revenue, but your personal revenue, right? So quick example. A lot of folks gravitate towards LLCs. They're very, very common. They're very easy to set up. I think that they are a great tool and they're a great starting point. But some folks don't even know that they should maybe go forward and create an LLC. So you have an LLC maybe, but you're not operating as an LLC. So what does that mean? That means you're not truly protected. And that means you don't have the liability buffer to protect your business assets and your personal assets. So you're out here, you're operating, you maybe have an LLC, maybe you don't. And once you're in the marketplace and you're taking on customers, you're exchanging money for services or goods, you open yourself up for liability. You open yourself up for potentially being sued. And you need to be protected with some type of liability, either insurance or liability protection that comes from filing your LLC. And you need to operate as a business owner so that you secure yourself. And what I see a lot of new business owners do is they have no concept of the things that they need to do to truly protect themselves. And they leave themselves wide open for being sued and having their personal assets attached as well as their business assets. I just said a whole lot. And I think as we go through, I'll break down those concepts a bit more. But if I needed to sum it up, it's, ignoring the legal stuff and thinking I can just get to it later. No, you should probably get to it now and have a solid launch point so that as you're growing and as you're scaling, because you will grow and you will scale and you will be massively successful, you'll have a solid foundation from which you're working.
Thank you. So it's interesting. We have kind of a wide variety of our group here. We have the clients who maybe some of them are multi-level marketers, and that's kind of all that they do, but they have large teams. Some of them are multi-level marketers that are also life coaches or health coaches, and so they have that exchange, or they sell other services as well. And then we have the assistants. Some of them are just stay-at-home mommies who saw this opportunity and decided to take a position, and others are full-fledged like business owner assistants who have been, experienced VAs doing this for a while. So we kind of have this spectrum of people. So tell me, what are some, especially for the assistants, let's start there. Those who don't have an LLC or a sole proprietor setup, why would that be important to those people?
Great. So I think it's paramount if you're, again, in the market, engaging with folks. There's an exchange of services, there's a value exchange there. So you want to have protection, right? I don't think there could be anything worse than working and performing a service for someone and then they stiff you, they disappear on you, right? And you have no protection. Like, what do you have in writing to support that you've done this work and that you should be paid, right? So aside from an LLC, and you make an excellent point, Megan, which is when we have folks on a spectrum, folks who are just starting out versus folks who have been in the game for a while and now have teams and now have inventory and now have all these other things, as you're moving along on that spectrum, it is important for you to educate yourself more and more and more, because the legal needs of someone who's just starting out is going to be a bit different from someone who's been operating and operational for 5 years or something like that. You all need legal protection of some kind, but it might vary and it will differ. I would say for assistants who are starting out at a base level, you want a contract. You want something in writing, right? So contracts are super, super important. They clarify the relationship. They make things, if they're written correctly, they make things crystal clear. So there should be no question as to when you're getting paid, how much you're getting paid, what tasks you're being asked to do, how those tasks should be delivered, how you're expected to show up and do the work. And you never want things to be murky, right? Because if they're murky, folks can, later on change their expectations. They can say, well, no, you were supposed to do 5 things instead of the 4 that you did, so I'm not paying you. You never want that, right? So you want clarity at all levels. So I think having even a basic contract that says, this is what I do, this is what your expectations are. We all agree, yes, let's sign it. You have a copy, I have a copy. We can always refer to it if there's ever a conflict. I think that at a base level is something that you should have. And I think it would be excellent, especially as you said, stay-at-home moms who, you know, you're not running some massive operation, but you are doing work, valuable work. So you should have some protections around that. So I think at this level, basic contracts are super, super important.
Awesome. And I remember when you and I chatted, one of the clauses that I didn't even really know what it was, that you told me was super helpful was, and I'm going to say it wrong, the indemnification. um,
Indemnification, yes.
indemnification, yeah. And I felt like that was so helpful to, as that catch-all, both for the clients and the assistants, but to have in their own verbiage. And can you explain what that is and why that's important?
Yes, absolutely. So generally speaking, an indemnification provision is a clause within a contract. And we generally use it business to business, but you can use it individual to business as well. And a scenario to explain it would be, I work for you. I'm providing you with a service. If you are sued and it's because of perhaps the service that you've asked me to perform for you, sure, they can sue me, but I'm not responsible for paying any judgments. I'm not responsible for getting an attorney. You have to do all of that on my behalf. So you can write that into a contract, and it essentially says, I'm working with you, I'm providing a service for you, we're engaged in this way. But if there is litigation or any type of government investigation, anything that arises from this, you are responsible for basically protecting me, shielding me. You get the attorney, and they will also have to defend me. I'm not paying out of pocket for anything. You would have to pay out of pocket for any and everything that arises from that. So it's something that when I worked at large corporations, we always included it in our contracts with other parties. It was just a standard. And it's the one provision that you kind of fight with, because if you have a savvy lawyer on the other side, they go, whoa, 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 whoa. We don't want to be on the hook for everything. Let's do some carve outs where we may not have to cover you in those instances. So it's super, super important. I was going to say, I don't think most folks know about it, but I know most folks don't know about it outside of the corporate realm. So it's definitely something that you might want to slide in there, not slide in there because everyone should be reading their contracts, but you definitely want to include it because it will be super, super helpful for you.
And same with the clients. I feel like there's, especially so many of my clients are new to having a virtual assistant. And so they don't really quite know, they have their business they're trying to protect, but then now they've engaged in a relationship where they're hiring someone out for services.
Mhm.
And I think that can get a little murky on what they're supposed to do to protect themselves in that way.
Yeah.
And so can you talk a little bit about that on the client side? Like what should they have in place when they bring on independent contractors?
Sure. So first things first, an independent contractor agreement. That is just base level needed. And it protects you as the worker, the assistant, but it also protects the client, the company. So, all states have some variation of the independent contractor statute, because there is a difference between an independent contractor and an employee. Employees must get paid at least minimum wage. They are entitled to benefits. They're entitled to, opting into company benefit programs. There are a host of things that, employees are entitled to. An independent contractor, on the other hand, is not entitled to any of those things. So, for example, if I worked at a bakery and I was bringing someone in as a baker, that's a part of my business model. I can't say they're an independent contractor. Like, I'd have to pay them as an employee. But if I had a plumbing issue, I could go out and hire a plumber. I can pay you one and done. We agree on what the terms are. You're not entitled to any company benefits, so to speak. So I think that's a quick and dirty example of what it might look like. But the independent contractor statute, from the worker standpoint, it essentially carves out and says, hey, I'm an independent person providing a service for you. So I dictate, where I work. You can't tell me I must be, in your office doing the work, because I'm not your employee. So I can work from home. You can't tell me what to wear. You can't dictate the things that I do on a day to day. You can give me a series of tasks and I must perform them to the standard that we agreed. But outside of that, you cannot control my schedule and things of that nature. So the independent contractor, it rings true, because this is someone that you're engaging with to do a service or a group of services, and that's it. They're performing the service. and they're basically, think of a graphic designer, for example. Like you tell them, hey, I need a website. They go out and they create the website. Like you're not hovering over them each day and telling them when they can take a bathroom break. Like it just doesn't happen like that, right? So there's that separation. So it's super important for you as the worker, because you want to make it clear that this person cannot control your day to day. You have that ultimate control and power. But you also, again, want to outline what you're getting paid, etc. From the client slash company side, they want to make clear that you're not my employee. So I don't owe you things like overtime. I don't owe you things like workers' compensation. I don't have to pay into that, right? So there's that distinction that also says, hey, I'm also protecting myself because I don't owe you all these monetary sums, so to speak. It's super important to have it because states really do look at it. The attorney generals for all the states, they tend to try to come down on businesses who are misclassifying folks. So like if you're truly an employee, but they're saying, no, they're an independent contractor because I don't want to pay the extras, they come down on them for that. But I don't think we'll have that in this scenario because it sounds as though this client base is truly, independent individuals just working with others. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, that's actually really helpful. And I feel like it's incredibly important because I've actually heard of quite a few people, not quite a few, but I've heard of people, both clients and assistants, who come into legal challenges where they either didn't have a business entity set up like an LLC or sole proprietor, and so that made their business vulnerable to attack. Because what that does, and Kimberly can kind of explain this a little bit, but instead of suing me and my house and my personal assets, they're suing my business, and that's different. So that I'm still all of my personal assets are protected when you have that LLC and sole proprietor set up. And so if you don't have one of those set up, that's really helpful, both as an assistant and a client. I've also heard of like the assistants who just got stiffed all of a sudden, where they're working with a client and suddenly they decided, I don't want to work with you anymore. And there's a pending invoice sitting out there that's never been resolved. And so how do they, what are their next steps? Do they have that in writing to say like what, how that relationship is supposed to work? So those are all kind of situations that I think, for those who are on the call, why this is so important that you've decided in the beginning how that's going to happen before it even plays out. Any thoughts on that, Kimberly, before we move forward?
Yeah, let me just flesh that out a bit, because I think you just captured a lot of what I wanted to say at the beginning, and it might have been jumbled. Mm-hmm. So I think the two, especially at this juncture, the two types of business entities that you are all probably considering or looking into is either a sole proprietorship or an LLC, limited liability company. So sole proprietorship, you're a sole proprietor if you are, carrying yourself or presenting yourself to the public as a business, but you've not filed anything with your state, right? So you've not gone on your state's website and filled out the form to incorporate in any way. You're just, you threw up a website, or you threw your hat into the employer or the public realm and just started doing business. So if that's what you've done and you've not filed anything, your state and the government would look at you as a sole proprietor. The benefits of that is you didn't have to do anything. You just, started your business. But there are huge drawbacks. One of them being there's no separation between you and your business. So if you are sued, they can come after you. They can come after your home. They can come after your spouse's bank accounts. They can come after your kids' bank accounts, because there's, in the eyes of the government and the law, you are your business. So if I'm suing your business, I'm essentially suing you, which is why many people opt for the LLC. LLC, again, very, very common, very, very easy to set up. There are not a lot of requirements as far as like number of meetings you have to have or meeting notes that you have to keep. There's not really that. You essentially go on your Secretary of State or the Secretary of Labor's website, depending on where you are. You click, there's a form, you fill it out, you pay the filing fee, and you're now an LLC. Now, what that does is, unlike the sole proprietorship, there's now a barrier between you and your business. So if let's say something happened and you were sued, and you only had, let's say, $1,000 in your business bank account, that's all they can really go after. They cannot bypass that barrier and now, want to take your home. No, if you're suing the business, the most you can get is what the business has. The most you can get are the business assets. So you're child's college fund, your home, your vacation home, those are all protected because there's that barrier. So that's why a lot of people go for the LLC. I will say, however, and I just did a free training on this that you all can view if you want. If you are an LLC, you must operate as an LLC. So what does that mean? You need a business bank account. The money that you're getting in your LLC should not be in your personal bank account. Because then a court might say, well, hey, you filed it because you filed the necessary documentation because you wanted this protection, but then you kept operating as though, this business money was your play money. Like you didn't really create that separation. So no, we can now go after everything, right? So you have to open a business bank account and use that. So all the money from your business should be funneled into your business bank account. You can take draws and pay yourself, but the money belongs to the business. It doesn't belong to you yet. You need to,
Does
you know,
PayPal count as that, or would they have to go to their bank and create one? For those I know that's what some people are thinking.
could you repeat the first part of that question?
PayPal, does that count as a bank account?
So PayPal, I have my own qualms about PayPal, but yes, make a PayPal business account. Make sure that the name on that account is your business name and not your personal name, and then operate that way. And make sure that the transactions, the deposits from your PayPal are going into your LLC's business bank account, not your personal bank account. Never, never, never do that. If you need funds, make sure it goes into your business and then you can pull it out from your business because you have a log of that, right? So when you're filing taxes, you can say, hey, I pulled that money out, I was paying myself. But never, ever, ever have your money go directly from your PayPal or directly from, your boss, whoever's paying you, directly to your personal account. It is a no-no. Take the extra step of having it go into your business bank account and then drawing it out. Trust me on this. Not non-negotiable, not debatable. Don't do it.
So helpful. That's such good advice, because I get that question a lot when people first start working with clients or assistants is, how do they like to be paid, and how should we be paying each other? And I feel like that is just it's so missed sometimes. And so I really appreciate you mentioning that. So in addition to we have some of my clients are multi-level marketers, and I also mentioned some of them are coaches, and they are affiliate marketers, they are bloggers and podcasters. Is there anything specific that, maybe let's start with bloggers and podcasters, that they should be doing to protect their content as they're putting it out in kind of the ethernet?
Yeah, there are a number of things you can do. Blogging, for example, the number one thing I recommend is getting software on your website that stops people. It disables like that right click function. So folks can't just right click, copy, and then paste, right? So there's simple software. If you have a WordPress website, there's a plugin you can download that just disables the right click. That's the easiest way to stop people from literally going page by page. I've had this happen to a client. Page by page, right click, copying your all those articles that you've worked so hard to draft, and just throwing it up on their website, right? So that's one.
What if going back to that, what if they don't have a WordPress? What is the software that you recommend that they download? For just like many of them use Vovoto or Wix, or there's so many different platforms out there. What can they download?
So I don't have the name of one in hand because there are just so many. And in the past, like my recommendations have just been find what's on your WordPress, like just click in, like right click disable, and a number of things pop up. So I don't have a name, but that's a recommendation. If you do a Google search, you could find plenty of options for that. So that's one. For two, depending on your content, right? So if you're doing something that's super, super in depth, super, super valuable, and by that, I mean, not a one paragraph blurb, right? But something more substantial, you can copyright your materials, and you can do that a few ways. So the first would be at the bottom of your website, always insert that copyright disclaimer, right? All rights reserved. Then you do the copyright symbol and the date, or the year rather. So that's a timestamp of sorts, and you can always, everything that's on the internet, it's there forever. So if ever someone were to, copy that and say, well, no, I had it before you, we could always go into the history of your website and pull that. But also that notice to them at the very bottom is enough for them to know that they shouldn't be obviously stealing your materials. It also gives you the ability to then send them a cease and desist, right? So I have templates for that as well. And the cease and desist letter is essentially saying, hey, I wrote this amazing article on this date. It was published on X date, and you've now stolen it and repurposed it. Not even repurposed it, it's just on your site. pull it down by virtue of statute. It's like US section 17, what have you, because for copyrights, you get it at the moment of creation. So if I sit here right now and write a blurb, a blog post, the moment that I write it, I have instant copyright protection, right? At common law. You can take an extra step of filing a copyright in your state, but you also have just the immediate protection of it being your intellectual work, something that you have created by sheer virtue of your brain power. So you get that instant protection. And so long as you can prove via your website that I posted it on December 15th, 2020, and now on May 17th, it's on your website, pull it down. And then you threaten litigation, and people usually pull it down. If they don't, and the realities of a lot of like the legal aspects is, are you prepared to enforce it, right? Are you prepared to go to court to sue them? Even if you're not, short of that, if you can prove that, again, you had it on your website, because we have that copyright symbol, we can go through, show that you sent a letter, show that you wrote this, you can send it to their internet service provider and threaten them, and they usually pull it down. We do it all the time on Instagram when folks, repurpose people's content. The person might be like, I'm ignoring this letter, who cares? Instagram's not going to take that same carefree approach, because they don't want to be sued. So Instagram and Facebook are very, very good at, if you send them a nice little package saying, hey, I put this podcast episode, they literally took it word for word, and they're hosting it on your platform. So I'm holding you responsible for it because they're ignoring me. Instagram will pull it down. That's why you hear some people sometimes say, oh, my site was taken down. My Instagram was hacked. It probably wasn't hacked. You probably had content there that someone told you to take down because you stole it and you didn't. So Instagram pulled down your entire page. So there are a lot of avenues you can go through. But I would definitely say, just make sure you have that copyright notice at the very bottom of your website. And if you're doing something against substantial, something that's really big, something that, it's been a big research undertaking, consider filing for copyright at the state level.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've heard of many bloggers who have had, like you said, people have taken like just full on copying and pasting it elsewhere. And so there's actually a lot of different plagiarism checkers. You can just Google plagiarism checker, and then you can type in your copy, and it will tell you all the other places that it's also at. And this also actually helps when you're creating copy, so that it's to ensure that it doesn't sound exactly like a reference you might be sourcing or something, so that it's fully separate.
Absolutely. And the not so fun truth is that once it's on the internet, it's fair game, so to speak, because there are unscrupulous folks who will just, why would I need to think about something when I can steal what Megan's just posted? Right? Those people exist. So we just have to do what we can do to protect ourselves, figure out what fights we want to fight. And if you do ultimately want to battle it out, just have those things in place so that you're prepared.
Yeah, and a lot of people I know will use their blog to generate revenue. So they might post affiliate links and things like that. What do they need to do when they post, whether it's an affiliate post on social media or in their blog? Is there something special that they need to do to protect themselves?
Sure, yes. So the FTC requires disclosures for things of that nature. So if you are an affiliate and you're being paid per click, right? So you have a link on your page. If folks come and they click that link and it takes them to your affiliate site, you're getting some type of kickback for that. There are disclosures that you need to make public. So what you would do in that instance is, and you should already have on your website terms and conditions, and privacy policies. And I'll get back to why in a moment. But the way to protect yourself is to include a disclaimer in your terms of service or your terms of use, whatever you want to call it, on your website. And it's a quick blurb saying, hey, there may be some affiliate links on my site. However, I'm not promoting anything that I don't truly believe in. I may get a small commission from this. The end, right? So it's not like you have to go into depths of what that agreement is, but it just provides transparency to the general public, that, hey, if you click on something, I may be getting, something back from that. But it's ultimately up to the individual if they want to click on it, if they want to make a purchase. So you're just giving that disclaimer, and then they're free to do what they will. As I mentioned, if you have a website.
Sorry, really quick question going back to that before you move off that topic. Do they have to include that affiliate disclaimer on every blog post that includes affiliate links or every social media post, or is it enough to be just in their terms and services on their website?
It's just enough to have one link to your terms and service, and that's it. So for each blog post, you're not rehashing the same verbiage, right? So usually you go on a website, you can scroll to the very, very bottom and you'll see like towards the left or the right or even the center, it'll say terms of use, it might say legal, it might say disclaimer, it might say privacy policy. You click on those and it hyperlinks you to the page that has that. So that's the only place you need to have it. You don't need to have it at the top. I've seen some sites do it where like every single blog post, they have like this italicized disclaimer. And I'm like, you don't need that. It's actually probably off-putting to folks. So as long as you have it in the one place, which is, my recommendation is the terms of use page, you're absolutely fine and you don't need to have it in multiple spots.
Oh, that's perfect. Sorry, now go with what you were saying.
You're great. So if you have a website, depending on how you use your website, there are policies that you must have. So one, the first isn't a must, but it is highly, highly recommended. And it's a terms of use, also known as a terms of service, right? This is basically where you house the rules for your website, right? If you're coming on my website, this is how I operate it. So, no hate speech. If you are found to be spamming, I might block you, like just different rules. Like this is how I operate. If you have any questions, this is where you can find me. All those things are really housed there so people know what the rules are. This is especially important if maybe, and I don't know if anyone here does, but if you have maybe a membership site or a pay site where folks have to log in, because that's where you would put your terms for, hey, I can ban you if you do X, Y, and Z, right? If you're sharing your password, if you've purchased one account, but you're sharing your password with multiple people and I find out, I will just block you, no refunds, right? This is where you would put all those terms by which people have to abide by. The second piece to that is a privacy policy. Now, this is required by federal law. I'll say it again, federal law, not state, the big boys, federal law, but only if you do certain things, right? So if you on your website, and I think most people do nowadays, if you collect personally identifiable information on your website, you need to have a privacy policy that has to have a number of like mind crunching legal terminology. But if you collect first names, addresses, email addresses, credit card information, any combination of those, you have to have a federal privacy policy that has a number of things in it. So if you have a Shopify store, maybe if you sell anything online, you're definitely collecting names, addresses, emails, credit cards. You need to have that. If you even are doing like pop-ups, opt-ins, right? Hey, get this free checklist, give me your first name and your email address. That's enough. Now you need a privacy policy. Privacy policies can be very, very legally dense. I wouldn't encourage the average person to attempt to write their own privacy policy because it's going to be wrong because it's so, again, legally dense. You have to have GDPR, you have to have the California CCOPA act in there. Like, it's just a number of things that, you guys are not lawyers, you didn't go to law school, bless your hearts. You're one of the smarter ones because law school was crazy. So, these aren't the things that you're thinking about or even know to do. So I would definitely recommend, purchasing a privacy policy or having, a lawyer draft one specific for your business. But those are just two things that every website should have, especially if you're collecting any type of public information or personally identifiable information.
Awesome. Yeah, it's interesting because I know a lot of my clients are creating websites for the first time. And so I feel like it's really important for them to kind of know what needs to be there and what to add and why that's even important. Out of curiosity, with all the scenarios or risks that we've talked about, are there any case studies that you would like to share with us where people maybe didn't follow this advice and maybe it went the wrong way and it could have been so easy if they just had one little thing in place to protect themselves?
Yes, so many. Maybe I can think of a few. So my background, as Megan said, I've worked in the large corporate white collar space for over 12 years now, usually at the very, very high level. But even when I worked at the high level, I always did like pro bono work for smaller community organizations or like the small mom and pops, because in my view, like that mattered more. Like, yes, Amazon, you'd like to open your 5,000th Amazon fulfillment station, and I need to do everything so that you can do that and help your employees get onboarded. But mom and pop and they're the bodega that they've had for like 15 years, they're not doing the things right. So they need my help also. And I'm going to do that. That was kind of frowned upon because, especially at my level, it's like, no, we need to make sure the big clients are happy. So I'm just trying to think back to some of my, starter companies. There were always instances where I'd get a client who'd been in operations for like a very long time, but just never formalized anything, right? You've never had a contract with any of your vendors. You've never had a contract. You don't have an employee handbook with any of your employees, which is like a requirement. It is a must. And now like the attorney general is like threatening to shut you down. So I have to come in and help you and like basically start from scratch, even though you've been in operations for 5 years. So I don't have a specific case study, but I've had many clients who, again, just started working. They just started being business people, but never had a foundation, and then they get sued, right? You have no insurance now, and you just had a trip and fall at your store. That's horrible, right? That's horrible because you're paying out of pocket for an attorney that you can't afford. Had you come to me, I would have helped you find, low cost, no cost insurance, essentially, that could have stepped in and I'll pause here. So the training I just did, it was 5 DIY legal steps to protect yourself. So low cost, no cost things that you should think about or do as you're starting your business. And one of them that I mentioned was insurance. So the importance of insurance, and as you're growing, please think of this. Insurance comes in this example. You have someone trip and fall at your store, or you send someone a product and they have an allergic reaction to it, or you send someone a product and they hurt themselves or they don't like it and they want to sue you. If you don't have insurance, you're out of luck. You are paying for an attorney, you're doing all that, you're figuring it out, and who knows where to start. You get something in the mail saying you've been sued. Most people don't know where to start. If you have insurance, you would simply get on the phone with your insurer, say, hey, I'm putting you on notice that I got this letter, I'm being sued, take care of it. They would immediately have to, per the terms of your insurance policy, assign you an attorney who would come out, talk to you, get all the information you needed, and then they would go and defend you. You really have like limited, if any, involvement in it after that, because the attorney is now tasked with litigating the case, with settling the case, and you'd have a deductible of sorts. It's similar to car insurance, right? You don't need it until you need it. Like you need your insurance, before you get in an accident, and you can't then say, hey, Geico, I just got into a fender bender. Can you insure me starting yesterday? No, it doesn't work like that. So I think insurance is something we should definitely think about. Contracts, I cannot stress it enough. And it's one of the reasons why I created Contracts with Kim, because I know going out and hiring an attorney at $200, $300, $400, $500 per hour to draft all the contracts you might need for your business, it's just cost prohibitive for a lot of business owners, especially if you're just starting out. Even if you've been in business for a while, who wants to pay $10,000 for contracts? No one. But you still need them. You can't operate without them, because if you do, if there's a conflict and you go to court, the first thing the judge is going to say is, well, where's the contract? Like, why should I listen to you when you're telling me, well, this is what you agreed to? If it's not in writing, it didn't happen. And I need you guys to remember this. If it's not in writing, it was never agreed to and it didn't happen. It is your word against the other person's word. And in a court of law, that means nothing, because the judge is just going to imply or infer what should have, could have been. Whereas you need to take the opportunity at the beginning of this relationship to say, no, these are my terms. This is what I'll agree to. This is what I won't agree to. And to your point, Megan, you said, some people get stiffed. If you get stiffed, quite honestly, your only recourse is to say, hey, I have in my hand our contract that you signed. You can't now say you didn't agree to it because I have your signature right here. So having contracts, I think, are just, I know are very, very important. I think it's a step that people skip because, oh no, that's my business partner, or that's my friend, or I've known him for so long. All the more reason why you need a contract, because you want to keep things clean, you want to keep things very, very transparent, and things go right and things are fine until they're not.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I actually just about a month or so ago, I purchased my my business insurance, and I already feel like I'm much more airy and breathy. And for me, it was $40 a month, and I don't know. It depends on everybody's state and everything, and location where you purchase that. But for mine, I only have to pay $1,000 deductible, and that's the most I will ever pay up to $1 million of being sued. And so that's all I'll have to pay, even if they sue me for $1 million. And so that's really comforting for me. So that $40 a month makes me just feel at ease with my business. And so I know that here's an interesting question. Since many of these people are distributors for a multi-level marketing company for doTERRA, obviously doTERRA has its own legal support. How much of that supports the distributors, if any? And do they still need their own LLC? Do they still need their own business insurance, or are they protected by the doTERRA umbrella?
Sure. So I'll answer that with a caveat of I've not looked deeply into, the structural or legal setup of doTERRA. But personally speaking, and as someone who, again, represented large companies, the legal support of the company does not fall onto you. So it's the reason the company's attorneys are not your attorneys, which is why if you were to sue them, like those same attorneys would be on the other side of your attorney. Like they're not your attorneys. They're the attorney for the company. So again, with MLM, and again, I don't know the specifics of this one. My understanding is that you're all independent. So if you are independent, you need your own everything. I question whether or not you could even speak to their legal without them saying to you, I can only tell you general answers about the company. I would assume that's the answer you're going to get. They're not going to give you tailored legal advice. They might just give you information about how the company operates, and that's it. So my suggestion to you would be, one, perhaps do some digging into doTERRA and see if they have any disclaimers or statements. I'm assuming they will, that say, hey, we're not your attorneys. But you should always operate with your best interests in mind. And your best interests would be to formalize your structure and to get your contracts in place and your insurance in place and all the things you need to do to protect you, because you are independent and you need to operate in that mold. If you get sued for whatever, I don't know that doTERRA is going to represent you. And that's just my off the cuff response, because I don't see why they would structurally.
Sure. Yeah. And especially with thousands and thousands and thousands of distributors. I feel like that's why, especially with essential oils, you know, as you're speaking and promoting them, I feel like it's really important that somebody may have a reaction. And what if they get mad at you for having now recommended that product to them and put it in their hands? And so you really want to make sure that, especially with a health company, that you're protected. And stuff like that's very important. We had some good questions pop in the chat. One of them says, how do we know if we need business insurance, and what's the best way to find affordable insurance? And so we kind of addressed the first one, but I do have any recommendations on affordable business insurance.
Great. How do you know if you need business insurance? So again, as Megan said, I think folks are on a spectrum on this call as to what they do and how they operate. And you really need to look into your operations, right? So an example I gave last week is I have a client who just sells t-shirts. The odds of her getting sued, very, very, very low. So we, based on her unique circumstances, we decided that she didn't need insurance at this time because she just sells t-shirts. If someone got a t-shirt they didn't like, they probably want a refund or they throw it out. There's not a lot of, I'm injured by this t-shirt. So, no real need there at this time for her to get insurance. On the other end, if you're selling food-based products, things that folks can have allergic reactions to, skateboards, things that people can harm themselves with, that's the risk is higher, so you want more insurance. So I think many of you might be in the midpoint. I think the fact that you are, to your point, Megan, selling essential oils, a lot of people are super, super sensitive. I'm hoping that either within your disclaimers or your, the individuals that you're working, the companies that you're working with, their disclaimers, you're telling folks, hey, if you have an allergic reaction, you might, because people are allergic to things. So like, be aware of that. And you're giving those disclaimers so people then have the onus on themselves to say, hey, do I want to use this? And if I do and I have an allergic reaction, at least they told me. You should definitely be doing that. But I think there's some degree of insurance that might be required as you're growing. The way to do that, and it depends greatly based on your state. But I know, again, Google is very, very helpful, but you Google and you get like everything, right? So maybe finding like, Megan, can you tell us how you found yours? Like, I know how we would find it here in Mass, but it's so different state to state that I don't even want to just say.
Yeah, and I found mine because we were already getting insurance anyway for other things like life insurance, and they're kind of an all-in-one company that does a lot of different kinds of insurance. And so I asked them if they offered business insurance, and so we got to talking, and I really liked their policies, I liked their prices. And so we went forward with it after kind of researching a little bit about what other people are doing. I have heard of a lot of virtual assistants who are using something called Hiscox. It's HISCOX. I haven't looked into it a whole lot, but I know that I've heard at least a dozen or so people that are using that. So that might be something to look into both for the clients and the assistants. I know that some of them are specific to states. I think Hiscox is more general, but again, you'll have to kind of talk with them specifically about your individual circumstances. And yeah, so Hiscox. Let's see. One question came in, said, whose contract should we use, the clients or the assistants? And so I'll kind of take that one real fast, because essentially you should be having two. The client should be giving you an independent contractor agreement. The assistant should be giving them the contract for the terms of their relationship. And so you're kind of, is that right? Is that how you would do it, Kimberly?
That can be right. But I like to simplify things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a contract, and I think a lot of people shy away from doing this, but if you're being presented with a contract, you are two business people engaging in a business relationship. So you should be free to say, hey, I'm going to make some edits to this to include terms that I think are favorable. And you can have a few rounds where you send them and say, hey, these are my edits. You can accept them or not. And they can send you back and say, okay, we accepted these, but not these. So I think it can work in the way that Megan said, which is you have your own agreement, especially because some clients may not have that agreement, right? So you have yours in hand and you have your protection in hand. But if they give you an agreement and it's not complete, you can say, hey, we need to edit this. Can you send me the Word version or the Google Doc version? And then you can include your own terms. You should always do that. Never sign something simply to sign it. And I know that sometimes we get excited and we're like, yay, but you also want to make sure that the excitement is not, it lasts, because you're actually happy with the relationship. So I would definitely encourage you to either make edits to whatever they're sending you, so it's one full, complete, comprehensive contract. Or the way that Megan said it could also work, if they're sending you something that's not complete, but you have the other portion, you can just send it and say, hey, we're going to execute both these contracts and these are our terms.
Yeah, definitely. And let's see. And I know that in the end, I want to show, let me make sure I got all my questions. I want you to show some of the resources that you have, because I know that people are now probably to hear with thinking like, oh my gosh, now I need to go edit my website. Now I need to go edit my contracts. Now I have to go get business insurance. I know that a lot of people are probably kind of walking away a little bit overwhelmed, but I'd love for you to kind of share some of the resources that you have available, both in terms of your ready to go things, your coaching, and other things.
Absolutely. I'm going to share my screen. I didn't intend to do it, but I think this might be the easiest way to do it. So let me share my desktop. Share. Oh, hi, everyone. There you are. Okay. So working with me, I am in the process of kind of consolidating my resources just based on client feedback and the ways that I think folks can get the most bang for their buck. As Megan said, and as I think I've tried to underscore, my goal, my passion is just helping folks who are trying to help themselves not get hung up or, jammed up because they don't know the legal landscape. So two resources that I have right now. The first Megan already shared, and I thank her for that, is Contracts with Kim. So contract templates and legal resources to protect your growing business. So this is a one-stop shop where folks can just go in and find different contracts, right? So I'll just go into shop all contracts for coaches, freelancers, we have privacy policies, we have independent contractor agreements. We have a number of contracts, and they're at a cost that is not something you'd get for the hourly rate rather of working with a, a lawyer one-on-one. It's just not going to happen. Google whatever the going rate is for an attorney in wherever you're located, and you'll find that, it's a couple $100s, and a contract can cost you easily upwards of $800. It just does. So I try to make my products as cost effective as possible. So that's one option, contracts with Kim. Most recently, I've rolled out an option I think is even better for folks because it is a membership. And the membership, it's called Smart DIY Legal. Why is that not there? Technical difficulties, please hold.
It always doesn't work when we want it to work.
Oh, you're typing in FIY, Smart FIY.
Oh, I am, thank you. Smart DIY Legal. So this is a one-stop, this is a membership, and this membership includes every single contract that's on Contracts with Kim. It also includes master classes. It includes live DIY questions with me and other attorneys, other resource providers. It includes trainings. It includes everything you need to basically get you started as you grow, as you bring on team members, and as you scale. So this is a one-stop shop for any business owner who is interested in getting legal protection for a very, very discounted rate, because again, I want to pack in as much information, as much resources, as much help as folks need. So I launched last month. We have a great group of members. There is a private membership community inside. We also have a Facebook community. Let me go to, so contract templates and business documents, we have a business blueprint, right? So if you're starting a new business or you're starting a different venture and you're like, okay, the last go round, I just did it. Let me get a blueprint. I want to make sure I'm doing everything in order and the way I should be doing. We have blueprints inside. We have checklists inside. Again, we have trainings, right? So business formation training. Should I get an LLC? Is an LLC the proper entity for me? I have live questions now, like, I want to hop on the next call so that I can ask my questions. And again, it's a flat fee for the year. It's not an hourly as you would get with a normal typical attorney. And the entire goal of this is to help entrepreneurs avoid the expense of hiring a lawyer by providing them with access to legal information, business education, and DIY legal strategies to help you protect your earnings and confidently start, run, and grow your legally protected empire. Again, you're going to need legal advice at every stage as you're in operations. So I wanted to create a one-stop shop where folks could get all of that for a very, very, very low and discounted fee. So those are the ways you can work with me. I do still take one-on-one clients. So if you wanted just more tailored one-on-one help, I'm available for that as well. You can find me you can email me rather at kim@odumsconsulting.com and find me that way. Hopefully Megan might have the information if you weren't able to capture that. But yes, so contracts with Kim, if you just want a one-off contract and be done with it. The membership, if you want more ongoing help and also access to every single contract that's on Contracts with Kim, plus more. And then, yes, one-on-one, I do take on some one-on-one clients. I also wanted to mention on Smart DIY Legal, at the very bottom here, I have the training, the 5 DIY legal steps to protect and grow your business. It's absolutely free. It's a replay of the training that I hosted last month. So you can pop in there, you can fast forward to the parts that might be beneficial. But again, it's just ways to really help yourself as you're growing your business.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And it's interesting because so the way that Kimberly and I first started working together is I booked a one-on-one call with her first. And it was so helpful just to sort of talk through my business model and like, here's where I'm at, what am I missing? And that was really helpful and therapeutic, actually, just to sort of walk through that and hear her insight onto where I was and what I might be missing. And then afterwards, then I hired her to help me with my contracts, because I had some set up already, but she helped me to really fine tune them and make them a little bit more robust and fill them with the things that I was missing. And so that's how she and I have worked together. And so you have the templates on her website, but then I don't know if you still do this, but she helped me to customize my templates specific to me and what I was trying to do. And I assume that you still offer that service.
Yes, I do. If you have them, right? Because a lot of people just don't. So that's why I mentioned, the contracts with Kim is ready made for you. But yeah, if you have templates and you want some help, you want to talk through, what the specifics of your model are, and have me help you with that. That's something that I'm available for as well.
I have a feeling that there might be some people here who might find it valuable that, let's say they have the assistant and then have the client. Maybe they both got on the call with you and said, okay, here's the 2 documents that we have, or maybe we don't have any documents yet. What is the one document that we need for the 2 of us that protects us both? Because we have the independent contractor agreement template that's on your website. And then we have now the assistance or freelancer contract, and kind of merging the 2 together so both sides are supported. I could see being really valuable.
Absolutely. Yep.
One question came in that said, if we started as a sole proprietor and have now formed an LLC, do we need to re-sign contracts as the LLC, or just send an addendum or anything?
So I would not attempt to go back and recreate it as if that wasn't how you were operating, because at the time of signing you were operating as a sole proprietor. I would say going forward you definitely want to sign as Megan Lloyd, CEO, or of on behalf of the business match. You want to sign it on behalf of your company going forward, but what you could do is just simply take that agreement and just re-execute it, right? You can send a nice note saying, hey, love doing business with you. Just letting you know about some changes in my business. We've now updated our entity formation, and because of that, we're going back and we're making sure our contracts are also up to date. We'd like to re-execute that same contract. None of the terms have been changed. We simply want an updated agreement to represent, the current state of our business. And, folks are generally understanding of that. They get it. And then, you send it out, you get your fully executed contract, they sign, you sign. And now, as of that date, it's proper and it's aligned with your new business structure.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Kimberly, for being with us tonight. Are there any other questions that we didn't get to before we say goodnight for the evening? Anybody that has a burning question on the top of their mind? Okay, awesome.
If you do have questions, again, Megan has my info. You can also find me on Instagram at Kim Odums ESQ, KIMODUMS ESQ. I'm interactive there with anyone who reaches out. So thank you, Megan, for having me tonight. I appreciate it. I wish you all the best. Good luck as you go forth in your amazing business ventures.
Definitely. And thank you for sharing your genius with us. We're just ever so grateful for the services that you provide and making it easy for people like us to stay in our zones of genius. So thank you. And I can see all the thank yous coming in the chat. Everybody's just so grateful that you joined us this evening. And I know I have dozens more who are also going to be listening to the recording. So I'm really excited to share this with everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Have a good night, everybody.